déjà la musique. Ouf.
Hello and welcome to my newly renovated theatre, The Dropper of Horrors. We have many delights in store for you, including our revolutionary 3D technology. Watching films is a thing of the past. Falling through them at a deathly breakneck speed, however, that is the future. Pick a film. All 3 acts are in the same hallway. Pick your act, then make your drop. Be careful, though. It's a long way down. Oh, dear.
Alors, on va aller où? Le bout. Replay.
Hello and welcome to my newly renovated theatre, The Dropper of Horrors. We have many delights in store for you, including our revolutionary 3D technology. Watching films is a thing of the past. Falling through them at a deathly breakneck speed, however, that is the future. Pick a film. All 3 acts are in the same hallway. Pick your act, then make your drop. Be careful, though. It's a long way down. Oh, dear.
Hi. Do you want to play hide and seek? If you win, I'll give you a prize. I hide in the theater sometimes. They're awfully cozy. Am I here? Am I there? Come see. Come find me. And we can play. Forever and ever.
Oh là, c'est à moitié déphasé là. Oh, des affiches.
The Howling Forest. When little Timmy and Ben asked their parents if they could go camping, they said no. "There's wolves out there, it's too dangerous," his mother said. "We'll take a trip somewhere else next summer." But little Timmy and Ben didn't listen, and they didn't want to wait. That night they climbed down the dark steps to the cellar and packed their camping kit. Sleeping bags, lights, snacks, and most importantly, marshmallows. They snuck out into the forest, going deeper and deeper into the woods until they found their spot. In between trees, shielded from the wind, a level ground, and no parents. Timmy and Ben quickly built a fire and got out their roasting sticks. The marshmallows softly sizzled over the embers of their fire, and their laughter rang out through the trees. Their parents would never find out, they giggled. Oh, but they did. Only 2 days later, when they found a ruined campsite.
Ok. Ah, l'ambiance. Acte 2. On se croirait dans un ciné là, le truc. C'est trop bien fait.
Timmy and Ben had gorged themselves on candy and chocolate. Their tummies were bloated, and all they could do was lie on their backs. I think I ate too many marshmallows, Ben said. Me too, Timmy said. Ben clutched his belly. I think I need to take a tinkle, and he wandered off into the woods. The first 10 minutes Ben was gone, Timmy wasn't worried. But after 30 minutes passed, Timmy was trembling in his shoes. Where was Ben? Why hadn't he come back? Ben! He called out, but there was no answer. The wind whistled between the gaps of the trees, and everything seemed sinister. But little Timmy was brave. Maybe Ben had just fallen asleep. Timmy stood up, took his light, and tried to track Ben's footsteps from the camp. First, they led to a tree, but then there were more tracks. And they weren't just footprints. A large, wide press, like a sledge, had been dragged across the forest floor. Ben must have found something big and dragged it somewhere. He was probably trying to hide it from Timmy. He always did annoying things like that. He never wanted to share. Timmy followed the tracks until they led to an old spelunking cave. The iron grates in front of the cave had rusted and bent. Loose cobwebs hung on the bars, fluttering gently as cold air flowed out of the cave. Timmy hated spiders, but this is where Ben went, so that is where he must go. Besides, little Timmy had a light, and little Timmy was brave.
Waouh. Pas mal. Acte 3.
Inside the cave, spiders scuttled away from Timmy's light, crawling into small cracks. The larger ones stayed their ground, eyeing little Timmy as if to dare him to break their web. But he didn't. Timmy crept and squeezed past any gap that he could. Ben was down there somewhere. A bat squeaked and flew out of the cave as Timmy approached, and he yelled out in surprise. After he realized, Timmy laughed at his foolishness. It was just a bat, not scary at all. Just then, he heard soft footsteps approaching him from the other side of the cave. "Ben?" he called out, but no answer. "Ben, if that's you, stop it, it's not funny." The footsteps stopped. "Ben?" Little Timmy raised the light above his head, peering into the darkness, but he couldn't see anything. He walked further into the cave, every muscle tensing in his body, willing him to turn back. But little Timmy was brave. He wouldn't run from footsteps. Just then, Timmy saw a dark figure move in the shadows. "Ben?" he called out, but it wasn't Ben. The dark figure leapt at Timmy, and the last thing he saw was the dark yellow eyes and sharp white teeth of a shaggy grey wolf.
Ah ouais, malin, le lynx. Ah ouais, faut tomber dans la gueule de je sais pas quoi. Waouh, c'est chaud patate, hein, un peu.
Two days of rain followed little Timmy and Ben's camping trip, clearing away their tracks. But their parents still searched for them. A whole search party scoured the forest, but it was only on the second day that they found Timmy and Ben's campsite. The tents were torn and shredded. The food they hadn't eaten scattered across the floor, soggy marshmallows and sandwiches left by a fire that had long since fizzled out. They never found Timmy or Ben. The only thing left was Ben's coat, caught on the prickly branches of a pine tree.
Acte 1.
Night of the Missing Pet. Zombie loved his cat. He called her Emmy, and they went on all sorts of trips together. They went running by the river, climbing over rocks, and lazing under trees. But the most fun was when they terrorized the local villagers of Wheatburn. Emmy would lure the villagers around corners with her soft meow, where Zombie would be waiting to scare them. But now, those times were over. After their scare trips, Zombie would be tired, but Emmy was always still full of energy, so she would venture out into the wild on her own. Sometimes she wouldn't be back for days, but this time it was much longer. After a week, Zombie went out searching, and he found her by the riverside, bruised and broken. The villagers had taken their revenge on his cat, Emmy. Zombie was stricken with grief and hate. His friend, the mad scientist, tried to comfort him, but Zombie couldn't shake it. The villagers need to pay, but they would wait. First, Emmy needed to be buried. Zombie took her body to the local graveyard, where he began to dig hard and fast. He didn't look up until he was surrounded by the dirt walls of the grave. When it was deep enough, he climbed out to get Emmy, but she was missing. He looked everywhere, but he couldn't find her. The only person who knew he was burying her tonight was himself and his friend, the mad scientist. Zombie looked up at his friend's castle. The lights were on in the windows, the strange contraptions working their green smoke. Maybe the mad scientist wasn't his friend after all.
Il y en a plusieurs. Ouf. Ah. Zut. Oups. 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 Ah. Ok, j'ai trouvé, je crois. Zut.
Zombie quickly ran up to the castle and burst through the door. "Mad scientist!" he yelled. "Where is my cat?" He raced through hallways of armored knights, shiny swords and crest shields, but he couldn't find the mad scientist's laboratory. Zombie would get lost in this castle before he found Emmy, but it didn't matter. He had to do it. He had to avenge her. He burst through door after door, pushing over armor stands and decorations through the castle. Destruction and rubble followed in Zombie's wake. He would level this castle to the ground if it meant finding Emmy. But he didn't have to. He turned a corner and saw the telltale green hue of his old friend's experiments. A tall iron door with metal grates stood in his way. "I'm coming, Emmy," Zombie said, and he pushed the door open.
Kick. Ah ouais. C'est chaud. Ah, ça va être chaud. Ah, il y a des blocs de slime. Faut voir si c'est ça. J'ai trouvé. Ah ouf. Oh putain. Ah non, pas possible. Ah mais... Le dernier acte de celui-là. Ah, il y en a plusieurs. À chaque fois, il y a plusieurs possibilités de prendre pour faire des sauts.
The mad scientist's laboratory was just as difficult to navigate as the castle. Bottles and jars of strange green liquids sat on shelves and desks. Otherworldly tendrils poked out of walls, and mechanical spiders with human heads skittered across the floor. Zombie would destroy all of it if Emmy was harmed. Every last bottle and tube, every table and chair. Zombie would even tear down the stone walls. And the mad scientist himself? He would rip him apart like paper, shred him to pieces. First those villagers killed his cat, and now his only friend stole her from him? No, Zombie would not stand for this. He ran through the laboratory, knocking things over as he went, the mechanical whirs of the mad scientist's machines droning in the distance. No doubt he was already performing experiments on Emmy, experiments that he was going to stop. The droning became louder. Zombie was getting closer. He heard a laughter coming from behind a door frame. He rushed to the door, and what he saw made his jaw drop. In the center of the room was Emmy, hooked up to a machine, alive and purring, a greenish tint to her fur.
On va essayer par là. Ouf! C'est des toutes petites sources. Ça va être un peu tendu. Ah, merci le verre. Oups. Je vais aller jusqu'en bas. Ah non, je fais le... Non, pas bon. À côté. J'espère que c'est une source, pas une fake.
The following nights, the villagers of Wheatburn knew no rest. Emmy let out blood-curdling shrieks into the night, and Zombie chased down any villager trying to find the noise. Even when she went alone, Zombie wasn't worried. Emmy was invincible now. She was a zombie, just like him.
Ok. Oh, il y a des petites araignées.
The Wicked Pumpkin. Shouts and screams chased the Witch of Westwick back to her hut in the forest. The locals had caught on. She had been too careless flying on her broom, and now they knew she was a witch. Over her shoulder, she could see the bright fires of torches, their light gleaming off the villagers' pitchforks and scythes. Her life near Westwick was over. She would have to set up somewhere else. But first, she had to deal with the peasants. Concoctions and potions raced through her head as she navigated her enchanted trees. An invisibility potion would do the trick, but she didn't have the right ingredients. She would have to improvise. Her cat was waiting at the doorstep, but she had no time to lose. She would only have a precious few minutes before the villagers would be at her door.
Ouch. Ok. Attends. Ouais. Non, je crois que je l'ai vu la source, mais... Ah oui, là. Ouh. C'était pas la fin en fait, là. Tout à l'heure où j'étais. C'est un espèce de jump, quoi. Waouh, c'était chaud. Ah ah. Ah, acte 2 terminé. Acte 2 débloqué.
Every second that passed, the shouts of the villagers grew louder. The witch raced around her hut, grabbing potions, roots and flowers and casting them into her cauldron. She didn't even know if what she was making would work. Her best hope was that it would grant her invisibility for just a short while, enough to be able to grab her most precious things and take off into the night. She grabbed the last of the ingredients and cast them into the cauldron. Pumpkin innards, chicken leg, and begonia stem, then stirred vigorously. The liquid inside the cauldron turned orange, blue, and then simmered down to a green. It was done. The witch grabbed a spoon and carefully poured the liquid into a glass. It was now or never. She downed the glass and gulped down every drop. It burned her throat and clogged it like she had swallowed ash. Her eyelids became heavy and droopy. Her body felt like it was made of metal. Something was wrong. She stumbled and knocked over the cauldron. Her mind turned to green and orange, as if the only thing that existed was fire and flower stems. She could see a blazing sun burning over green grass fields, a young dandelion growing out of thick green leaves, green frogs jumping over a river tinged with streaks of orange rust, a large ripe pumpkin sitting in a vine-filled mud patch.
Oula. Voilà. Y'a que celui-là. Non, il y a le trou là. Ça fait 2. En moyenne, il y en a 2 quoi à chaque fois. On va prendre le plus grand. Hein. On verra bien. Oula. Oups. Ah oui, j'ai trouvé. Ah ouais, là c'est chaud. Ah oui, il y avait un bloc de slime là aussi. Non, non, non. Oh, c'est chaud, chaud, chaud. Ouch! Je l'ai vu tout à l'heure la source. Elle est là la source, je l'ai vue. J'y suis presque. Oups. Oups. Zut! Si on essaye l'autre pour voir. Il est où? Je sais qu'il y en a un autre que j'ai vu. Il est là. Non, le mieux c'est l'autre. Celui-là est faisable, mais. Il est chaud, hein. Hein?
When the witch finally escaped the madness of the potion, she tried to regain her bearings. A large scarecrow stood slanted off to her right, and all around her she was surrounded by pumpkins. She had turned herself into a pumpkin. Aha! She thought to herself. I did it! I tricked those nasty peasants! She laughed inside her head with a mirth that only wicked witches turned into pumpkins could have. She hadn't intended to turn herself into a pumpkin, but it did the job. Now all she had to do was wait until the spell wore off. Then she'd be able to go on her merry way. But the witch had forgotten one thing. It was harvesting season, and she was a very large and magnificently ripe pumpkin. So the witch waited and waited, and the spell didn't wear off.
Alors, la dernière. Ok. Ok.
Now the Witch of Westwick had finally disappeared, there was nothing on the mind of the farmers except their beautiful pumpkins. The pumpkin farmers of Westwick had a brilliant harvest that year. They had so many pumpkins that they were able to have pumpkin pie every night. The very first pumpkin they cut was such a beauty, they made a pie out of it for all the workers, sat around the table, scraping off every last morsel from their plates. Every farmer agreed that there was something unnaturally good about the harvest that year.
Qu'est-ce que ça débloque maintenant? Mhm. Ok. J'ai fini. Et c'est tout. Ok. Thank for play. To the power. Bonus credit. Ok. Ok. J'ai fini et il n'y a rien de plus. Ok. Ok. Ok, ok. Ok. C'est des distributeurs. Un, 2, 3. Ok. Bon, moi j'ai fini alors. Mais c'était pas mal. C'était pas mal.